why the PVP gear system sucks and makes me want to quit WoW. So let's have a look at the picture of what most PvP players already know. Like, for example, I just opened a few profiles of players we played against with on RPG after an RPG match, and as you can see, this guy, for example, he's almost fully gladiator equipped. So he has an item level of 246 in PvE gear. This is scaling up to 259. He almost has covered every single slot, and of course it was not the RBG rating. As you can see, the RBG rating is quite low. 3v3 is a little bit lower, but the highest one is 2-on-2. And that's what you see most of the times if you face a high geared RBG player. He mostly has a really low RBG rating, but a very high 2-on-2 rating. Now 2-on-2 is quite simple. You only have 2 players against 2 players, so it's not that complex as 3v3. And 10 versus 10 is more complex at all. Also, the battlegrounds are functioning a little bit different. You have to fight over bases, you have to bring back the flag, and whenever you get attacked, you need to decide who are you going to send back to defend, who is going to attack, and it needs to be the right decision needs to be done in that specific moment. Here's another profile from a player which we played against, or which I played against. So also this guy is fully gladiator equipped, and of course he has a really high 2-on-2 rating. He has played some 3v3, actually quite a lot of games, but he hasn't played that many RBG games. There's another one as well. We have almost full gladiator gear on 259. He's missing the shoulders so far. He probably needs to farm the last few conquest points. I don't know if there's a reason why he has these shoulders still, but the rest of the gear is almost on 259, and of course he also did this with the duelist ranking. We have another player here, also the same picture, with a very low RPG rating but a really high 2-on-2. Same as this guy. He also has one of the highest, or right now the highest legendary item level which is possible. I don't care at all. He has a very low gladiators medallion, but that doesn't really affect the gameplay since this medallion is just to free yourself. But at the end we do have almost a 259 geared enemy which is playing on a 1.6 rating so far. Something also very interesting is whenever you have a look at the RBG list, one thing you notice, there's one group which has voice activation. They want to play with Discord, they want to play with TeamSpeak or in-game voice at least, so they can communicate with each other. They have a target call, they have some strategy they're doing while in RPG, and they can communicate whenever someone is attacked, so they can just decide who is going to defend, who is going to stay in the cirque to make sure the enemies don't get the flag, for example, in the Eye of the Storm. And there's a communication going on. But most of the groups you will see is without voice. Actually this one just has a B voice, but he doesn't have the symbol on it. But most of the groups actually don't have any voice. Now, how does this really work? Communication in an RPG is really difficult, and it means you have to communicate with other people, with other humans. And that's what many people don't like. They just want to join an RPG, they want to play a rated battleground, but they just bash because they have a higher gear than everyone else has. Alright, let's have a quick look at the exact PvP gear item levels in patch 9.1.5. Right now, a player who has already achieved the 1400 Challenger is able to upgrade his gear to 239. But if he still has to fight a 2100 2-on-2 player, the item level difference is 20 gear score in the average. Alright, so one of the biggest problems in the PvP sector is that people don't fight equally. Like you have high gear players against low gear players, and it's not a fair fight. So how do you solve this? With the 9.1.5 patch, they just reduce the gap. It's just one step into the right direction. The problem is still there. I personally think there's no problem if Blizzard decides to. You have to earn the gear, like you have to play to get the gear, but just let everyone upgrade to the maximum level. I think it's great that you can only achieve 246 item level in PvE if you play PvP, and it scales up to 259. I think that system is pretty nice. You actually can also think about what if Mystic players, if they have 259 gear, in PvP it gets scaled back to 246. If you want to play PvP on the maximum level, you need to play PvP and you need to get the PvP gear. So this is one thing you could do, but I'm actually happy with the system right now. Like the Mystic Raiders, if they do their race, they cannot play PvP to get the best gear, so they have to focus on their Mystic Raid if they want to play that content. So I'm pretty fine with that. So in my experience, my personal problem and also the problem of many PvP players is the imbalance we have right now if we play RBG. In Arena, that problem is there, but probably not that big as in RBG, but it is still there. So if you take a team which has an up rank match versus a team who has a down rank match, the down rank team doesn't need to play as good as the up rank team because they have the gear advantage. And I think that's the problem. To me, if you play competitive, if you let players fight against players, why would you think it's a good idea to give the good players even better gear, so empower them? They can't even lose against you even if they play bad. I don't mind playing against someone who has the best gear, but he spends a lot of time into the game, and I do not, so I have lower gear. But if I would spend also that amount of time, I can earn the conquest points, I can earn the honor points, which I need to upgrade to the maximum level. So at the end of the day, you have basically PvP players who all have the best PvP gear possible. But now the skill decides what rating are you playing on. If you want to reward the players with a high rating who achieve the 2.1 rating or 2.4, just give them some transmo, give them a title, give them a mount, whatever. It needs to be a cosmetic part. I just think it's a terrible idea to give them better gear. The main reason I'm actually doing this video is because I'm totally pissed. Like, this problem exists not only since yesterday, it doesn't exist since the last season, it already existed in BFA. You have the gear disadvantage and it just destroys the gameplay. I don't know what you think about this whole gear system, if you think, no, it's really great, but to me it's a reason to change the game and play something else instead. And since this problem is that obvious, it's even more frustrating to think about it because it could be fixed so easily. Thanks for listening and have a really great evening.